next up is Martin Jeret. And this we're going to try to maybe see if we can do this a few more times. So Martin is right at the very beginning, really, of his journey in comparison to our other speakers of his startup and with his app. He's a graduate of Edinburgh University. So he's going to be telling you about his startup and his app. But he's also going to be really looking to you for advice and for feedback. So I would encourage you all to, in the spirit of that, really think deeply about what he's saying and think about how you can help. And either put that back in the Q&A session, or we're going to have networking at the end. If you think you can help him, then please do approach him. Or if you can't, this is what he looks like. He looks like this. Come on up and join us, Martin.
So yeah, my name's Martin, and I just graduated Edinburgh Uni. And in my fourth year, when I was living in Singapore, I came across this idea of an app. It's called Backpack Chat. And we made it so that you would never miss a friend again. Sounds like a good idea. Next slide. So Backpack Chat is an app that shows you where your friends are traveling on a map. And the problem that we're trying to solve is that travelers' needs are not met on Facebook. On the left-hand side, you'll see my friend Alessandra. She posted that she's going to Brighton, and she was looking for friends there, but no one saw that Facebook post that was in Brighton at the moment. And on the right-hand side, you'll see Gemma, who was in Laos. And next slide. Her friend Ravine saw that photo, but Gemma was leaving the next day, so they didn't meet up. So we figured, next slide, what would help is if Gemma and Alessandra could see their friends on a map. This way, Alessandra will know who's in Brighton, and Gemma and her friend can know what each other's travel plans are. Next slide. So how Backpack Chat works. You connect with Facebook, and you'll see all your friends on a map. You can start sharing your trips. And next slide. And surprise, you have similar travel plans with your friends. Next slide. The team that's working on it right now, we have 5 members, but you can ask me later. We've gone through a huge variety of members in our team. I think altogether we've had about 12. Right now it's me. I'm the hustler. There's Lena. She's the hipster. She does marketing. And there's Chris. Chris is the hacker. So he makes all our crazy ideas come true. Next slide. There's also Sander and Sandor, the artist and the specialist. Next slide. So how we started it, I had no idea on how to build an app or anything like that. I'm actually a chemist. I studied it for 5 years. So when I started it, I asked for advice from my friends, and we were told, read Eric Ries's Lean Startup. So I decided I need to iterate very fast, build a very lean product, and then test it out if it actually works. So we started with cross-platform, Meteor, and next slide. But then I found out that we had competitors, namely Backpacker, that logo that looks like Beats by Dre. And Backpacker is an app by this 19-year-old German guy that was traveling the world for 2 years and outsourced its development to India. Unfortunately, the Indians didn't do a good job, and they didn't have a CTO at the time, so when they reached about, I think it was 10,000 users, their app started to crash, exhibited bugs, so we decided tech stack is important. We need to pick a solid stack. Next slide. So we built Meteor and went to our dearly beloved coffee cup Java, and also Swift for our iOS app. Now, our app has a map, which is geolocation, but it also has messaging service, which is real-time database. So we were trying to figure out what's a good way of doing that, and we were contemplating between long polling and WebSockets, but in the end, we decided to go with a silver bullet called Firebase, if anyone's familiar, which basically means we don't need a backend service, which made our backend developer really, really unhappy. But we're using Firebase right now, yes, and it's working fine. The only limitation with it is that Firebase can only make calls within the Google services. So whenever we use an external client, we have to make the calls in the client. In other words, the app itself and the phone. Next slide. But then came uni, and I was in Estonia, and I had to fly to Edinburgh to finish my 5th year. And then my team remained behind in the cold wasteland of Estonia, and it was winter time. It took us, that was the dark ages of our app, and we managed to launch our app in May. Next slide. And we got our first users, and we got some feedback. This is actually how I got feedback, is I called every single, well, not every single one, but I messaged them, tried to organize them Skype calls, and then recorded the Skype calls and tried to figure out what was missing and what was good. I had to scroll to minute 15 and 9 in order to get a smiling face. And I had a lot more hair at the time. So the first thing was privacy. Although you could see in our app only the city that your friends are in, but or your friends can only see the city that you're in, but you could see your exact location in the app. In other words, your pin would be dropped exactly where you are, which users thought was creepy. So we fixed it. We now when you log into our app, you can only see the same location as your friends would see it. In other words, we never show your exact location in the app. Other thing everybody told us was, oh man, that's such a good idea, I love it. But then they were dropping off. And the other one, the biggest one, was the chicken and the egg problem, is that the travel map that they see is empty, that they don't have any friends on it. So we had a tricky problem to solve, is how to invite their friends on the app, which we are still struggling with, but I'll tell you about that a little bit later. Next slide. So I tried to take that user feedback and make like a Trello board. And it's divided into 5 sections, which I drew up at the time when we got our first users, which goes from sales to a new user, to a returning user, and a fan. So a fan is someone that really likes our app and invites their friends and shares our content. And I tried to map out features that would help onboard a new user or keep a returning user, and then make these color codes where we have green as the high priority, orange as low, and red as we'll deal with it later, and the blue is done. I guess the biggest problem that we were facing was, in the beginning, was the onboarding, but then we fixed it. And then with returning users, people would come onto the app if they have new information there. So we were thinking how to do that, and we figured maybe public chats would help, but we weren't too sure about it. Next slide. This was our user growth pattern. So these are all the net installs, so installs minus uninstalls. At first it was growing faster, but then we changed our marketing strategy from direct sales to a more prolonged approach. And we went from what we were trying to achieve was, how can we get our app into the hands of travel bloggers, and how do we get travel bloggers to promote our app amongst their readers, which is a tricky challenge because they usually want money for it, and we didn't have any. And what we try to do right now is we made a radio show, and with the aim of inviting beginner or medium-sized travel bloggers to talk about their blog there, in the hopes of getting to their users or readers. Next slide. The actual installs and uninstalls look like this. It's quite ugly. So we had a lot of uninstalls, and the main uninstalls came from our sign-in method, because we connect users with Facebook. A lot of people don't want to log in because of that. So about 100 of those came from just people that hadn't signed in but had downloaded our app. The rest of them were mostly from people that had downloaded the app when I meet them in pubs, and then just uninstall it later. But we are working on retaining the users. Next slide. So the way we do that is I try to categorize into three sections. So value prop for the first user. If you don't have any friends on the app, how do you still keep using it? And what we figured would help is if we have partners and we offer deals in the app. It's not our core product. We still focus on making sure you know what your friends' travel plans are, but we figured that will help. So we partnered with Like a Local, for example, which offers tours by locals in new cities that you visit. And these are questions to the audience if you want to discuss them later. Maybe if we make, because right now you only see your friends and it's a closed circle. It's kind of like a WhatsApp rather than a Tinder of meeting new people. So maybe if we make it a little bit more open, that would help. Or if we somehow share information with like rooms or community rooms or whatever. Then another thing is how do we get friends in the app? And what we figured would help is if we have a better onboarding process and we started utilizing our emails. With onboarding, I want to go with the way what Twitter's doing. So you can't go forward unless you invite 5 friends. That would help. And another thing is notifying users of similar trips or interests. So that's improving our core product. We sent, because we don't have any notifications at the moment, really, when you have matching trips. We have a very, very minimum product. But what we're trying to do now is make associations between when, for example, a good example is actually when I came to Edinburgh right now. My friend Patrick, who also uses the app, didn't know that I was going to speak today. But then we tested out the notifications on a couple of friends, and Patrick was one of them. So he picked up on it, and he knew I was coming visiting, and now he's here for the talk. So that was a good first experience. But we figured that the best way to get users to retain in the app is if they keep getting notifications. So that's what we're focusing on. Next slide. Another one is the management side of the problems. So we don't have any money right now, so we're just doing it out of love and air. And the only reasonable solution to it is approach investors and try to get into an accelerator, which is a bit tricky because in a small team you have to do everything all the time, and there are critical problems that are burning, but then there are longer term problems. And then one of the issues was trying to prioritize our product roadmap, because we do have a minimum product. There's lots of things we can do better, but if we have a limited time resource, we really have to pick our features that we're going to go forward with, which is an issue because some of the features are really good, but they take time. Other features are easy to do, but they don't generate long-term value. So it's kind of like a balance in between those. And sprints work really well. So we try to make a sprint once a month over the weekend for 2 days. And finally, if you have a team that's been working on it for about a year and they're not getting any money for it and they're still working their jobs and I'm pushing them to work over the weekends, luckily I have a sales background, so I had to motivate my first year students how to deal with rejection and how to set personal goals. So I developed a growth mindset, which I was teaching to our team as well. So if everyone has a personal goal on what they're trying to achieve in our team, that really helps them to stay on and keep on going. Because if they don't have a personal goal, they can fall short if the app isn't successful. But if they have a personal goal, what they're trying to achieve, then they really stay on. Next slide. So what's next? well, the Q&A, but next feature that we're trying to do and where we're heading right now is we're trying to get into an accelerator. We're looking for an iOS developer. We had one with 13 years of experience, but he had a baby recently. So he's gonna travel the world. Best idea. And we also try to make this really cool feature called Time Warp. So right now, the way you can see your friend's plans is if you click on a friend's marker, but we want to make it so that you can see them seamlessly. So when you open the app, you can already see your friend's travel plans without having to click anywhere. So that's a cool little feature, our little dream, what we try to do. My name is Martin, I'm from Backpack Chat. If you're an iOS developer, come talk to me, or if you have any ideas as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much to Martin.